it's Luke here again from the Tradie Marketing Agency, where we help you grow your tradie business. I was thinking a lot about the importance of cash flow today. And one of the things I've learned that is of the utmost importance is not so much how much you earned or how much you spent, but the timing of the payments, the when of when you earned it, and the when of when you spent it. So, to illustrate my point, I'm going to use a simple example. Let's say for the month of July, um, you have a projected revenue of $200,000 and projected expenses of 100 grand, right? So all things being equal, this looks like a pretty good month. You're on track to make 100 grand profit. So happy days. Um, but if the revenue comes in so if the revenue comes in at the start of the month and the expenses are paid at the end of the month, life is good. You're relaxed, you've got the money to pay wages, materials, overheads, and the month glides along smoothly. But what happens if those projected expenses are due at the start of the month and your projected revenue is to come in at the end of the month? What if you don't have the money to cover that 100 grand bill? Maybe you've got to take out a loan if you can get it, lay off staff, cut back on your marketing, stop growing your business, and in general be stressed up to your eyeballs. I remember having a experience a few years ago that demonstrates this. Um, like a builder I hadn't worked with before had contacted me to paint a section of a primary school. I quoted it well and I got the job. I think the total for the job was about 25K. And this was back when I was like a sole trader. He asked me if I could start as soon as possible as they were on a tight deadline. I said sure and sent through my deposit of 40%, which was roughly about $10,000, and started the following week. A week went by and I just had this funny feeling like my Spider-Man sense was tingling and told me that I should call and check with their accounts department just to make sure they had received my invoice, as I hadn't received any payment and would soon need to start purchasing the paint. Well, I'm glad I did. Even though my invoice and on the quote, I'd mentioned a 7-day payment term, I was informed that it was their policy to pay their bills 45 days from the end of the month, which, given we were mid-August then, this works out to be somewhere near the end of October. I find it surprising that builders can get away with coming up with their own times they'll pay their bills and not mentioning this until after you've started the job and sent them the invoice. If I asked my mechanic to fix my car and afterwards, when he was asking me for payment for his work, I told him that I forgot to mention it was my personal policy to pay his bills 2 months after he asks me, do you think he'd let me walk away with the car and both kneecaps intact? I don't think so. So while I wish I could tell you that at the time I had a big enough cash reserve to essentially fund the whole project, covering like materials and overhead and all that, and not need the money for that time, I'd be lying. I explained the situation to the builder and he said that maybe he could reduce it to 40 days. I said, I think you need to find another painter. So the moral of the story is to make sure you're getting paid before you do the work and you're clear on payment timeframes, particularly with builders. This allows you to cover wages, pay for materials, and ensure the project runs smoothly from start to finish. It also helps shift the leverage the client has to you to yourself. If you've already outlaid a lot of labor and materials and the client hasn't paid you a cent, it's not a great negotiating position to be in. Compared to having been paid a large sum of money up front before you've even stepped on site, this is a much better position and proof that the client has trust in you and is willing to pay you. So yeah, just something for you guys to consider out there is making sure that the money is coming in regular increments, preferably, before you've spent too much on it yourself, because, sometimes things happen and you need to pull out of the job because, the client might be trying to screw you over, or there's been some delays, or maybe they go bankrupt, as well. And if you're left holding the bag, that can mean that maybe your business goes out of business. So just something to consider. And as always, if you guys would like any assistance, marketing and growing your trade business, feel free to reach out to us at thetradiemarketingagency.com.au.